Mei Zhang is a 16-year-old student living in Vancouver, where she secretly trains in ancient Chinese martial arts. Her grandfather runs a small herbal medicine shop, but is actually the last surviving grandmaster of the legendary Phoenix Gate Temple. Their peaceful life changes when the city's most dangerous teenage gang leader transfers to her school, unknowingly setting off a chain of events that will expose secrets buried for generations. The heavy mist rolls in from Vancouver's harbor as Mei Zhang makes her way through the empty streets of Chinatown. It's 4:30 a.m., and while the city sleeps, she moves silently past the shuttered shops and dimly lit alleys. The neon signs from late-night restaurants cast an ethereal glow through the fog, creating dancing shadows that Mei has learned to use as cover. Her destination is an abandoned warehouse at the edge of the port, where massive shipping containers create a maze of steel and shadows. This has been her morning routine for the past 11 years, ever since she was strong enough to throw her first punch. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Inside the warehouse, moonlight filters through broken windows, illuminating a training area that would seem strange to most people. Wooden pillars, salvaged from construction sites, stand in formation like silent opponents. Their surfaces are scarred with countless marks from years of strikes and blocks. In one corner, chains hang from the ceiling, swaying slightly in the draft, perfect for practicing precision kicks. Old shipping pallets are stacked to create different levels for jump training, and a collection of worn training dummies bears testament to years of dedicated practice. This is where Mei spends 3 hours every morning, preserving an art that the world has largely forgotten. Her grandfather, Master Chen, wasn't always the quiet herbalist that the neighborhood knows today. 15 years ago, he held a far more important title, Guardian of the Phoenix Gate Temple, hidden high in China's BuIIies Mountains. The temple was legendary among martial artists for preserving fighting techniques that dated back to the Tang dynasty, techniques so powerful that they were said to give a single warrior the strength of 30 opponents. The temple's secrets were passed down through a carefully chosen lineage of guardians, each one spending decades perfecting the art before teaching it to the next generation. But everything changed one night when mysterious attackers set the temple ablaze. Master Chen barely escaped with his daughter, Mei's mother, and a few sacred scrolls containing the temple's most guarded secrets. They fled to Canada, where Master Chen opened his small herbal medicine shop in Vancouver's Chinatown. The shop itself became a perfect cover. Its basement converted into a small training area where Master Chen could continue teaching Mei away from prying eyes. The herbs and traditional remedies he sells provide more than just income. They're also essential ingredients for ancient training methods and healing techniques passed down through generations of temple guardians. For 5 years, life was peaceful. Mei's mother worked as a translator while Master Chen trained Mei in their family's art, incorporating lessons about qi control and pressure points into her daily routine. But tragedy struck again when Mei's mother died, in what appeared to be a random car accident on her way to an evening translation job. Master Chen's eyes still fill with unspoken guilt whenever her name is mentioned, as if he knows something about that night that he can't bring himself to share. Since then, he's become even more protective of Mei, intensifying her training while constantly reminding her to keep their abilities hidden from the world. At Cedar Heights Academy, Mei is practically invisible, and that's exactly how she wants it. Her oversized hoodies and quiet demeanor make her easy to overlook. She maintains perfect grades but never raises her hand in class, even when she knows the answer. During physical education, she deliberately performs at an average level, carefully controlling her movements to hide her true capabilities. She keeps to herself, speaking only to her one friend, Sarah Chen, no relation, a brilliant computer enthusiast who spends lunch breaks coding in the library. They share a comfortable silence, each focused on their own worlds. Sarah is the perfect friend for someone with secrets. She's too absorbed in her programming projects to ask questions about why Mei sometimes has bruises from training or why she never joins any after-school activities. Master Chen has always taught Mei that true power lies not in displaying your strength, but in knowing when to hold it back. This lesson has become her mantra at school, especially when dealing with bullies and troublemakers. She's learned to channel her energy into appearing unremarkable, though sometimes it takes more discipline to pull her punches in gym class than it does to break concrete blocks in the warehouse. But the careful balance of Mei's two worlds, martial artist and ordinary student, is shattered when Marcus the Wolf Rodriguez transfers to Cedar Heights in the middle of the semester. His reputation arrives before him. He runs Vancouver's largest underground teenage fighting ring, where amateur fighters battle for money and status in abandoned buildings and parking garages. Videos of his fights circulate on social media, showing his brutal efficiency and calculating combat style. Within days of his arrival, Marcus establishes his dominance through a calculated mix of charisma and intimidation. His inner circle, made up of skilled street fighters, becomes the most feared group in school, turning the hallways into their personal territory. On a particularly rainy morning, Mei is organizing her locker when she overhears Marcus and his gang in the adjacent hallway. They've cornered a freshman named David, whose family recently immigrated from the Philippines. The tremor in David's voice as Marcus demands protection money reminds Mei of the stories her grandfather told her about why their martial arts were developed in the first place, to protect the weak from those who would abuse their power. But she also remembers his most serious warning. Our art is not for show. Once you reveal your true nature, there is no going back. Every power exposed becomes a target. The sound of Mei's locker closing echoes through the hallway like a temple gong. As she shoulders her backpack, she doesn't yet realize that her path and Marcus's are about to collide in ways that will expose long-buried secrets. Forces are already in motion that will reveal not just her family's martial arts legacy, but the real reason her grandfather fled China, why her mother died, and why certain dangerous people have never stopped searching for the last guardian of the Phoenix Gate Temple. The next day at Cedar Heights Academy starts like any other, with students rushing through rain-slicked hallways to their first classes. But there's a tension in the air that wasn't there before. Word has spread about Marcus's confrontation with David, and now other students are coming forward with similar stories. Marcus's protection racket isn't just targeting freshmen. He's building an empire of fear that extends to every grade level. During lunch period, Mei sits in her usual corner of the library with Sarah, pretending to study while actually watching Marcus and his gang through the library's glass walls. They've claimed the central courtyard as their territory, turning it into an informal court where students come to pay their dues. Sarah's fingers pause over her laptop keyboard as she notices Mei's attention drift. "You know," Sarah whispers, "my brother says Marcus runs fight nights every Friday in the old paper mill by the river. Kids bet their allowances on the matches. Last week someone ended up in the hospital." She shows Mei a shaky video on her phone of one of these underground fights. The footage is dark and grainy, but Mei can see the raw aggression in Marcus's fighting style, all power and intimidation, with no concern for his opponent's safety. The library's quiet is suddenly broken by a commotion outside. David, the freshman from yesterday, is being pushed around by two of Marcus's lieutenants, twins named Jack and Jason, who are known for finishing each other's sentences and their opponents with equal precision. They're making a show of going through David's backpack, scattering his books across the wet courtyard ground. Mei feels her muscles tense, years of training screaming at her to intervene. But her grandfather's words echo in her mind. "In the temple, we learned that the most powerful technique is knowing when not to strike." She forces herself to stay seated, her knuckles white as she grips the edge of the table. That's when Marcus himself appears, his presence commanding immediate attention. He's tall for his age, with a fighter's build and a calculating smile that never quite reaches his eyes. What catches Mei's attention, though, is his movement. There's a fluid grace to his stride that speaks of serious combat training. This isn't just some schoolyard bully. He's someone who has spent years learning how to fight. "Look what we have here," Marcus announces loudly enough for everyone to hear. Somebody forgot yesterday's lesson about respect. He picks up one of David's soggy notebooks, making a show of flipping through it. "And what's this? Notes from advanced math? Trying to get ahead in life, are we?" David reaches for his notebook, but Jack, or maybe it's Jason, twists his arm behind his back. The other twin laughs, and the sound echoes off the courtyard walls. Maybe we should help him focus on more practical lessons, they suggest in unison. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Inside the library, Mei stands up slowly. Sarah grabs her wrist. "Don't," she pleads. "You've seen what they do to people who interfere." But Mei is already moving, her steps measured and deliberate. Master Chen's training has taught her that true courage isn't about seeking conflict. It's about standing up when everyone else stays seated. She pushes open the library door just as Marcus is about to throw David's notebook into a puddle. That's enough. Her voice is quiet but carries across the courtyard with surprising authority. The twins exchange glances, momentarily loosening their grip on David. Marcus turns, seeming almost amused by the interruption. "Well, if it isn't the ghost girl," he says, using the nickname some students gave Mei for her habit of disappearing after classes. "This doesn't concern you." "You're right," Mei responds, maintaining perfect stillness, another lesson from her training. "It concerns everyone who's tired of watching you turn this school into your personal fighting ring." A crowd is gathering now, students drawn by the unusual sight of someone standing up to Marcus. He hands the notebook to one of the twins and walks toward Mei with that same fluid grace she noticed earlier. Up close, she can see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, probably from one of his underground fights. "You know," Marcus says, his voice dropping to a conversational tone that's somehow more threatening than a shout. "I've been watching you in PE class, always holding back, always finishing in the middle of the pack, never drawing attention." He circles her slowly. "But there's something different about you. The way you move, the way you hold yourself. You're not afraid, are you?" Mei remains still, remembering her grandfather's teachings about emotional control. But Marcus misinterprets her calm for weakness. He suddenly snaps his fingers, and the twins shove David toward her. The freshman stumbles, and Mei instinctively catches him. But her movement is too smooth, too controlled. She sees Marcus's eyes narrow at this revelation. "Interesting," he says. "Very interesting." He steps closer, invading her personal space. "Friday night, at the paper mill. If you're so concerned about fairness, come see how we handle things in the real world. Or are you only brave in front of teachers and security cameras?" The bell rings, signaling the end of lunch period. Marcus backs away, still wearing that calculating smile. "Think about it, ghost girl. Sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to show them what you're really made of." As the crowd disperses and David collects his scattered belongings, Mei realizes she's crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. Her grandfather's warning about revealing her true nature echoes in her mind. But now it's too late. Marcus has sensed something beneath her careful disguise, and she knows he won't stop until he uncovers her secret, or forces her to reveal it herself. That evening, Mei returns to her grandfather's shop later than usual. The neon sign advertising Chen's traditional remedies flickers in the growing darkness, and through the front window she can see Master Chen attending to his last customer of the day. He's carefully measuring out herbs on an ancient brass scale, the same one he brought with him from the temple. His movements are precise and graceful. Even in this simple task, his martial arts training shows through. Mei waits until the customer leaves before entering, the shop's bell chiming softly above her head. The familiar scent of herbs and incense fills the air, but tonight it brings little comfort. Master Chen takes one look at her troubled expression and wordlessly moves to lock the front door, flipping the sign to "closed." "Something has happened," he says in Mandarin, leading her through the beaded curtain to their living quarters behind the shop. It's not a question. In their small kitchen, while Master Chen prepares tea using the same ceremonial pot that has been in their family for generations, Mei recounts the confrontation with Marcus. Her grandfather listens without interruption, his weathered hands moving through the familiar ritual of tea preparation. Only when she mentions the paper mill fights does a slight tremor in his movements betray his concern. "Ah," he says finally, pouring the tea with deliberate care. So it begins again. The cycle of violence calling to violence. He passes her a cup, the steam rising between them like morning mist in the temple courtyard. "Tell me, what did you feel when you stood up to this boy?" Mei stares into her tea, watching the leaves slowly settle. "I felt calm, centered, like all those years of training were finally serving their true purpose." Master Chen's expression darkens. "That is what I feared. The same fire I saw in your mother's eyes the day she—" He stops abruptly as if catching himself from revealing too much. "The day she what?" Mei presses, but her grandfather is already standing, moving to the cabinet where he keeps his most precious herbs. "Tomorrow morning we begin new training," he announces, changing the subject. "If trouble seeks you out, you must be prepared. But not in the way you imagine." He removes a small wooden box from the cabinet, its surface carved with phoenix designs. Inside are herbs Mei has never seen him use before. "These were reserved for temple guardians before their final trials," he explains, measuring precise amounts. "They help one remain calm in chaos, clear-minded in confusion." He begins mixing the herbs with practiced movements. "You will take these before training each morning." But before he can continue, they hear something that makes them both freeze, the distinctive sound of breaking glass from the shop's front room. Master Chen's eyes narrow as he silently moves toward the beaded curtain. Mei follows, her steps as quiet as his teaching has made them. Through gaps in the curtain, they see three figures moving through the darkened shop. The twins, Jack and Jason, are methodically pulling boxes of expensive herbs from the shelves, stuffing them into bags. Marcus supervises, his posture relaxed but alert as he examines the ancient brass scale. "Nice place," Marcus says loudly, his voice carrying clearly to where Mei and her grandfather hide. "Shame if anything happened to it. I heard the ghost girl lives here with her grandfather. Maybe they need to learn about our protection services." Master Chen places a restraining hand on Mei's shoulder, but she can feel the tension in his grip. The old master is holding himself back just as much as he's restraining her. "Look at this," one of the twins calls out, pointing to a scroll hanging on the wall, one of the few items they managed to save from the temple. "Bet this is worth something." As they move toward the scroll, Master Chen's grip on Mei's shoulder tightens almost painfully. That scroll contains detailed illustrations of the temple's most sacred techniques. In the wrong hands. "Leave it," Marcus commands suddenly, surprising everyone. He's still studying the brass scale, but something in his posture has changed. This was just a warning visit. Besides, he looks directly at the beaded curtain, as if he can sense their presence behind it. "I'm sure we'll have a chance to examine everything more closely after Friday night." The twins exchange confused looks but follow orders. They drop their bags of herbs, scattering expensive contents across the floor. As they leave through the broken window, Marcus pauses. "Nice tea set," he calls out. "Smells like Phoenix oolong? Very traditional. Very authentic." The emphasis he puts on the last word sends a chill down Mei's spine. After they're gone, Mei and Master Chen emerge to survey the damage. As they clean up the scattered herbs, Mei notices her grandfather examining the brass scale with unusual intensity. "He knew what to look for," Master Chen murmurs almost to himself. "The scale, the tea, the scroll." He turns to Mei, his face grave. "This boy, he is not just some street fighter. His technique, his knowledge. Someone has trained him in the old ways." "What are you saying?" Mei asks, though she's beginning to understand. "I am saying," Master Chen replies, "that perhaps we are not the only ones who escaped the temple fire." He picks up a broken piece of the window, moonlight reflecting off its edge like a blade. "Friday night may be more dangerous than you realize, these underground fights. I fear they are a test, not just of your skill, but of your identity." As they work in silence to repair what they can, Mei's mind races. The way Marcus moved, his knowledge of traditional elements, the calculated nature of this attack, it all points to something bigger than school bullying and protection rackets. She realizes that by standing up to him in the courtyard, she may have triggered events set in motion 15 years ago, when the temple burned. The question is, Who is Marcus really working for? And what do they want with the last guardians of the Phoenix Gate Temple? Thursday morning arrives with sheets of Vancouver rain, but Mei is already at the warehouse, training harder than ever. The herbs Master Chen gave her seem to sharpen her senses. Each movement feels more precise, each strike more focused. She can hear her grandfather's voice cutting through the sound of rain on the metal roof. Control is not just about restraint. It is about knowing exactly how much power to use, and when. The training dummies take a beating as Mei works through the advanced forms Master Chen taught her last night. These aren't the flashy moves seen in tournaments or movies. They're efficient, subtle techniques designed to end fights quickly. The kind of moves that the Temple Guardians developed over centuries of protecting their secrets. At school, the atmosphere has shifted noticeably. Word of Mei's confrontation with Marcus has spread, transforming her overnight from the invisible ghost girl to the center of whispered conversations. As she walks through the hallways, students part way, some looking at her with hope, others with concern. The twins are conspicuously absent, but their usual followers track her movements with poorly concealed interest. During chemistry class, Sarah slips Mei a note. Found something weird about Marcus. Meet me in library during lunch. When lunch period arrives, Mei finds Sarah hidden in the far corner of the reference section, her laptop displaying multiple browser windows. Look at this, Sarah whispers, showing Mei a series of old news articles. 3 years ago, Marcus showed up out of nowhere and started dominating underground fight scenes in Toronto, then Montreal, now Vancouver. But here's the weird part. I can't find any record of him before that. No social media, no school records, nothing. It's like he didn't exist. Mei leans closer to the screen, her grandfather's words about the temple fire echoing in her mind. Can you find anything about his fighting style? Sarah clicks through more windows. That's another strange thing. Most street fighters stick to one style, boxing, kickboxing, whatever. But look at these videos. She plays clips from different fights. See how he switches techniques? Some of these moves, they look almost like traditional Kung Fu, Mei finishes, watching Marcus execute a perfect Phoenix Eye strike in one of the videos. It's a technique she learned just last month, one Master Chen said was unique to their temple. Their research is interrupted by a commotion outside the library. Through the windows, they see Marcus in the courtyard, surrounded by a larger crowd than usual. He's holding what looks like an old-style challenge letter, the kind used in traditional martial arts circles. Listen up. His voice carries clearly through the library windows. Tonight at midnight, there's going to be a special event at the paper mill. Ghost girl, I know you can hear me. This is a formal challenge. 1 round, no rules, just skill against skill. He holds up the letter. Unless you're afraid to face someone who knows real Kung Fu. The emphasis he puts on real makes Mei's blood run cold. The challenge letter in his hand is written on distinctive red paper with gold edges, exactly like the kind her grandfather keeps locked away in their basement, saved from the temple. The rest of the day passes in a blur of worried looks and whispered conversations. Even the teachers seem to sense something is brewing, but no one moves to stop it. After all, what happens outside school grounds isn't their concern. When Mei returns to the shop that afternoon, she finds Master Chen deep in conversation with an elderly woman she's never seen before. They're speaking in a dialect of Chinese she doesn't recognize, but she catches fragments about the old days and signs of their return. The woman notices Mei and falls silent. Master Chen makes introductions in English. Mei, this is Madame Wu. She knew your mother from before. The pause speaks volumes. She has brought us a warning. Madame Wu studies Mei with eyes that seem to see straight through her carefully maintained facade. The ones who burned the temple, she says in heavily accented English, they did not do it to destroy. They did it to find something they believed was hidden there. When they failed to find it, they scattered across the world, watching, waiting for the guardians to resurface. She reaches into her bag and removes a wooden box similar to the one Master Chen keeps his special herbs in. These people, they use children to do their work now. They find young fighters, train them in fragments of the old arts, send them to search for signs of the true techniques. Her gaze fixes on Mei. Tonight's challenge is a test, not just of your skill, but of your lineage. Master Chen accepts the box with a formal bow. Thank you, old friend. We will be prepared. After Madame Wu leaves, Mei helps her grandfather prepare for the night ahead. As they sort through herbs and bandages, she finally asks the question that's been burning in her mind. What were they looking for in the temple? Master Chen's hands pause in their work. Not what, he corrects quietly. Who? He touches an old scar on his forearm, a burn mark Mei has never heard him explain. They sought the one person in each generation who could master the temple's ultimate technique, the Phoenix Gate stance. Your mother. She was close to achieving it before. He trails off, the weight of unspoken history hanging between them. As night falls and they make final preparations, Mei realizes that this midnight challenge is more than just a fight. It's her first real step into a hidden world of ancient powers and long-buried secrets. The question is, are Marcus and his underground fights merely a test, or is something even more dangerous waiting in the shadows of the old paper mill? The abandoned paper mill looms against the midnight sky, its broken windows catching the moonlight like jagged teeth. Dozens of students have already gathered, their phones creating a sea of tiny lights in the darkness. The crowd parts as Mei approaches, wearing simple black training clothes beneath her usual oversized hoodie. Sarah trails behind her, clutching her laptop nervously. You shouldn't have come, Mei tells her friend, but Sarah shakes her head stubbornly. Something's not right about all this, Sarah whispers. I've been digging deeper into Marcus's background, the fights he's been in, the way he appears in each city. It's too organized, too planned. Before Mei can respond, the crowd's murmuring grows louder. Marcus emerges from the paper mill's main entrance and Mei's suspicions are immediately confirmed. Gone are his usual street clothes, replaced by traditional training gear that looks almost exactly like the kind Master Chen keeps locked away in their basement. The twins flank him, now wearing matching black uniforms with an unfamiliar emblem, a broken circle with flames. Welcome to my world, Marcus announces, his voice echoing off the mill's concrete walls. Tonight's special event is a traditional challenge match. No modern rules, no referees, just the old ways. He looks directly at Mei. Unless our guest of honor is having second thoughts? Mei steps forward, letting her hoodie fall away. A few gasps ripple through the crowd. Without the baggy clothes, her athletic training is evident. Years of disciplined practice have shaped her into a fighter, though she's kept it hidden until now. Interesting outfit, she comments, nodding at Marcus's traditional gear. Where did you learn about the old ways? You'd be surprised what kind of education you can get these days. Marcus begins circling her slowly, analyzing her stance with trained eyes. The real question is, where did a shopkeeper's granddaughter learn to move like a temple guardian? The question hangs in the air like smoke. In the crowd, phones are raised higher, recording everything. Mei realizes this is exactly what Marcus, or whoever he's working for, wanted. A public display, forcing her to reveal her skills. Last chance to walk away, Marcus offers, though his smile suggests he knows she won't. Mei responds by settling into a basic ready stance, one that any decent martial artist would know. No need to show her real techniques yet. You wanted a challenge. Here I am. Marcus attacks without warning, launching a combination that would overwhelm most fighters. But Mei sees the pattern. These are temple techniques, but performed with an aggression that speaks of incomplete training. She evades each strike with minimal movement, letting his momentum carry him past. Good defense, he acknowledges, adjusting his strategy. But defense won't win this fight. The next exchange is faster, more intense. Marcus reveals more of his training, incorporating moves that definitely shouldn't be known outside the temple. Mei matches him technique for technique, but carefully, showing just enough skill to survive, not enough to confirm her training. Then Marcus launches a Phoenix Eye Strike, a killing technique that Master Chen said should never be used in sparring. Mei barely blocks it in time, and the crowd gasps as the force sends her sliding backward. This is no ordinary challenge match. Marcus is fighting to draw blood. That could have killed someone, Mei says, her voice carrying in the sudden silence. Marcus's smile turns predatory. Then show me how it's really done. Show everyone who you really are. In the crowd, Sarah is frantically typing on her laptop, likely trying to piece together what she's witnessing. The twins have moved to block the main exit, their matching uniforms now seeming more sinister than silly. Mei realizes she's trapped, not just physically in this fight, but in a larger scheme. If she shows her true skills, she confirms what Marcus and his masters suspect. If she holds back, she might not survive the night. The next sequence of attacks forces her decision. Marcus launches a combination that includes 3 more killing techniques, each one aimed at vital points. The crowd doesn't realize the danger, cheering at the spectacular display, but Mei sees the truth in his eyes. He's been ordered to either expose her abilities or end them. Time seems to slow as Mei remembers her grandfather's words from that morning. Sometimes the only way to hide your true strength is to show just enough of it to survive. She lets Marcus's last strike graze her shoulder, a calculated risk that opens him up for a counter. Her response is a modified temple technique, altered just enough to look like something learned from street fighting rather than ancient training. The strike catches Marcus in the solar plexus, sending him staggering back. "Not bad for a shopkeeper's granddaughter," she says, loud enough for the phones to pick up. Marcus's eyes narrow as he recovers. "Better than expected," he admits. "But let's see how you handle the real test." He reaches into his uniform and pulls out something that makes Mei's blood freeze. A pendant identical to the one her mother always wore, the one that went missing the night she died. "Recognize this?" he asks softly. "Your mother's death wasn't an accident, and after tonight, everyone will know exactly why she had to die." The sight of her mother's pendant dangling from Marcus's hand shatters Mei's carefully maintained control. The crowd's excited chatter fades to a distant hum as memories flood back. Her mother's smile, the pendant's gentle sway during their morning training sessions, the empty seat at dinner after that rainy night 5 years ago. "Where did you get that?" Mei's voice trembles, not with fear, but with a rage she's never allowed herself to feel before. Marcus twirls the pendant, moonlight catching the phoenix design etched into its surface. "Let's just say my teachers have been collecting temple artifacts for a very long time. They were quite interested when your mother started asking questions about certain techniques." His smile turns cruel. Questions that led her down some very dangerous roads. In the crowd, Sarah's fingers fly across her laptop keyboard, her face illuminated by the screen's glow. She catches Mei's eye and gives a subtle nod. She's recording everything, documenting every word of this revelation. "The night she died," Marcus continues, "your mother was on her way to meet someone who promised answers about the Phoenix Gate stance. Instead, she found enough." The command rings out across the mill yard. Master Chen emerges from the shadows, his presence commanding immediate attention. He's wearing his old temple training robes, something Mei has never seen him do in public. "Some truths are not yours to reveal, boy." The twins move to intercept him, but Master Chen doesn't even break stride. 2 precise movements, almost too fast to follow, and they're on the ground, clutching their pressure points in agony. The crowd backs away, phones still recording everything. "Sifu Chen," Marcus bows with exaggerated respect. "The legendary guardian himself. My teachers said you might appear if we pushed hard enough." He pockets the pendant. They have so many questions about the night of the fire. "Your teachers?" Master Chen's voice carries a warning. "Or the ones who control them?" Marcus ignores the question, turning back to Mei. "Shall we show your grandfather how much you've learned? Or should I demonstrate what your mother failed to master?" He launches into a sequence that makes the previous attacks look like warm-ups. These are pure temple techniques, performed with lethal precision. Mei recognizes them from the secret scrolls her grandfather keeps hidden, movements designed to shatter bones and rupture organs. The crowd gasps as Mei meets each strike with matching technique. There's no point hiding now. She flows through defensive forms that haven't been seen outside the temple in generations, her movements a perfect mirror of her grandfather's teachings. "Just as we suspected," Marcus says between exchanges. "The old man didn't just save scrolls from the fire, he preserved the true techniques through you." A particularly vicious strike grazes Mei's ribs, sending shooting pain through her side. But the herbs Master Chen gave her seemed to dull the pain, keeping her mind crystal clear. She counters with a combination that drives Marcus back, her techniques revealing years of hidden training. Your mother was close to unlocking the Phoenix Gate stance, Marcus continues, trying to bait her. But she couldn't complete the final form. That's why they had to. Mei's next strike cuts off his words, catching him squarely in the chest. The crowd falls silent as Marcus staggers, genuine surprise crossing his face. That technique wasn't in any of the scrolls his teachers showed him. My mother, Mei says quietly, settling into a stance even Marcus doesn't recognize, taught me more than just techniques. She taught me why we train, not for power, but for protection. Master Chen's eyes widen as he recognizes the stance. It's one he never taught her, one he'd only seen once before, the night Mei's mother died. An evolution of the Phoenix Gate stance, developed by someone who truly understood its principles. Impossible, Marcus breathes. That stance was lost generations ago. No, Mei responds, her movements becoming fluid, almost ethereal. It was protected, like this. Her counterattack flows like water, each strike flowing perfectly into the next. Marcus tries to defend, but his techniques, learned through force and ambition, can't match movements born from a deeper understanding. The final exchange happens almost too fast for the crowd to follow. Marcus launches a desperate killing strike, but Mei moves through it like smoke, her counterattack striking 3 vital points in rapid succession. He crumples to his knees, his borrowed techniques no match for true temple training. As Marcus struggles to stand, a phone rings in the darkness. He pulls it out, glancing at the screen, and his expression changes from fury to fear. This isn't over, he manages, backing away. They've waited 15 years to find the true heir of the Phoenix Gate. Now they know exactly where to look. The twins recover enough to help Marcus retreat, leaving Mei standing in the moonlight, her hidden strength finally revealed to the world. Dozens of phones have captured everything, the techniques, the revelations, the truth about her mother. Master Chen places a gentle hand on her shoulder. Come, he says softly. It's time you learned what really happened the night the temple burned, and why your mother's discovery made her both a target and a legend. Back at the herb shop, Master Chen leads Mei down to the basement she's known all her life. But tonight he moves aside an ancient cabinet to reveal a hidden door she's never seen before. The door opens to a small room that looks like a shrine, its walls covered with old photographs and scrolls. Your mother's research chamber, Master Chen explains, lighting traditional incense. Everything she discovered about the Phoenix Gate stance, everything that made her a target, is preserved here. Mei's eyes are drawn to a central photograph, her mother in her prime, demonstrating a technique alongside a younger Master Chen. The pendant Marcus showed her glints in the photo, catching the camera's flash. The temple wasn't just about preserving fighting techniques, Master Chen begins, his voice heavy with memory. It was about protecting something far more valuable, knowledge of how to unlock human potential beyond normal limits. The Phoenix Gate stance wasn't just a fighting position, it was a key to accessing these abilities. He unrolls a scroll covered in diagrams and notes in her mother's handwriting. Your mother was brilliant. She didn't just practice the techniques, she studied them, understood the principles behind them. She discovered that the ancient masters had encoded secret knowledge within the movements themselves. Sarah, who had followed them from the mill, sits quietly in a corner with her laptop, documenting everything with Mei's permission. Her fingers pause over the keyboard as Master Chen continues. The Phoenix Gate stance was said to allow a warrior to move between moments, not quite time travel, but a state where one could perceive and react with impossible speed. Many tried to master it, but most only achieved fragments like Marcus's teachers. He looks at Mei intently. Your mother was different. She approached it as both a scientist and a martial artist. He moves to a locked chest and opens it with a key he's worn around his neck for as long as Mei can remember. Inside are journals, dozens of them, filled with her mother's research. She discovered that the stance wasn't a single technique, but a combination of breathing patterns, mental focus, and precise physical alignments that could alter human consciousness. But more importantly, she realized why it had been kept secret for so long. Master Chen hands Mei one of the journals. The pages show complex diagrams linking ancient Chinese medicine with modern neuroscience. In the wrong hands, this knowledge could be weaponized. There were those who sought to use it not for enlightenment, but for creating superhuman warriors. The ones who burned the temple, Mei says softly, understanding dawning. A shadow organization that has existed for centuries, seeking power through ancient arts. They called themselves the Crimson Hand. He points to the emblem on another photo, the same broken circle with flames that Mei had seen on the twins' uniforms. They infiltrated dojos, fight clubs, anywhere they might find talented young fighters to mold into their agents. Sarah looks up from her laptop, like what they did with Marcus. Precisely. Master Chen nods. They take promising students and teach them fragments of temple techniques, turning them into seekers who can recognize and report true practitioners of the art. He turns to a final photograph, Mei's mother on what would be the last day of her life. She's demonstrating a stance Mei instantly recognizes, the same one she instinctively used against Marcus. Your mother completed her research that day. She didn't just understand the Phoenix Gate stance, she evolved it into something new, something even the ancient masters hadn't envisioned. His voice catches. She called me excited to share her discovery, but she never made it to the shop. Mei touches the photo gently. The car accident was no accident. The Crimson Hand couldn't let her revelation become known, but they didn't know. He looks at Mei with pride and concern. They didn't know she had already begun teaching you, integrating her discoveries into your training from the earliest age. What you did tonight, that evolved stance, you've carried your mother's legacy without even knowing it. A sudden noise upstairs makes them all freeze. Through the floorboards, they hear multiple footsteps entering the shop. They're here, Master Chen says grimly. Marcus's defeat was a signal. Now they'll come in force, seeking what your mother died to protect. He quickly gathers specific journals and scrolls. We must leave now. There's a tunnel under the shrine room leading to the harbor. What about the shop? All the history here. Mei protests. The shop was always a cover. What matters is preserving the knowledge, keeping it safe until the right time. He hands Mei a small bundle of the most important documents. Your mother believed that when the Phoenix Gate stance was truly understood, it could be used to heal, not harm. To expand human consciousness, not create weapons. Sarah closes her laptop decisively. I've backed up photos of everything to a secure cloud drive. They can't erase this history. Heavy footsteps descend the basement stairs. Master Chen moves into a defensive stance, positioning himself between the hidden door and the approaching threat. Mei, he says urgently, what you learned tonight is only the beginning. Your mother's work, her vision for what these arts could become. That's what they truly fear. Are you ready to accept this legacy? To become more than just a keeper of ancient techniques? Before Mei can answer, the basement door bursts open and shadows fill the stairway. 5 figures emerge from the shadows of the basement stairs, their movements displaying the same unnatural grace Mei had seen in Marcus. Each wears the Crimson Hand emblem, but these aren't teenagers. They're seasoned warriors. Their leader, a tall woman with a scarred face, steps forward. Master Chen, she says, her voice carrying a hint of mock respect. Still hiding behind herbs and remedies after all these years? Her eyes fix on Mei. And this must be the daughter of Lin Wei. We saw your performance tonight. Your mother's talent clearly lives on. Master Chen shifts subtly, adjusting his stance to cover both Mei and Sarah. Madam Viper, still sending children to do your dirty work? His tone is casual, but Mei can sense his tension. This woman is dangerous in a way Marcus could never be. Children see what adults miss, Viper replies. Thanks to young Marcus, we now know exactly what Lin Wei managed to pass on before her. Unfortunate accident. She extends her hand. Give us the research, and we can avoid repeating history. Sarah quietly slips her laptop into her backpack, backing toward the shrine room's hidden entrance. One of Viper's men tracks the movement but doesn't intervene, yet. "The same offer you made my daughter?" Master Chen's voice carries an edge now. "Before you ran her car off the road?" Viper sighs dramatically. Lin Wei's death was regrettable. She could have been a valuable asset. But she was too much like you. Too concerned with enlightenment and healing when she should have seen the true potential of her discoveries. While they talk, Mei notices something crucial. These warriors, despite their skill, move with a rigid precision that reminds her of Marcus. They've learned the temple's techniques, but not its heart. Her mother's journals flash through her mind, the difference between memorizing movements and understanding principles. "The Phoenix Gate stance isn't about power," Mei speaks up, drawing their attention. "That's what my mother discovered. It's about transcending the need for it." Viper's eyes narrow. Philosophical nonsense. The stance is a key to unlocking human potential beyond normal limits. Imagine an army of warriors who could move between moments, strike with impossible speed. "You still don't understand," Mei interrupts. She begins moving into the evolved stance she used against Marcus, but slowly this time, letting her consciousness align with each position. "The technique doesn't give you power over time. It helps you understand your place within it." Master Chen recognizes what she's doing. It's something her mother theorized in her final journal entries, using the stance not for combat but for perception. He subtly shifts his own position to complement hers. "Enough games," Viper snaps. She signals her warriors. "Take them. Secure the research. No witnesses." What happens next seems to unfold in slow motion for Mei. As the warriors attack, she feels something click into place, not just in her body, but in her understanding. The stance isn't about moving faster than her opponents, it's about moving in harmony with the moment itself. She sees everything with crystal clarity, Sarah sliding the final scroll into her backpack, Master Chen engaging two attackers with efficient precision, Viper holding back to observe. More importantly, she sees the patterns of their movement, the rhythms of their attacks. Mei moves through the chaos like water through rocks. Every strike aimed at her meets empty air as she flows around them, her counterattacks targeting pressure points with surgical precision. She's not fighting against them, she's dancing between their moments of action. "Impossible," Viper breathes, recognizing techniques that even her best warriors couldn't master. The stance was lost. "Not lost," Master Chen says proudly, having disabled his opponents with similar ease. "Evolution." Lin Wei didn't just preserve the Phoenix Gate stance, she understood it enough to transform it. Viper pulls something from her jacket, a modern handgun, destroying any pretense of martial arts honor. Understanding won't stop a bullet. But before she can aim, Sarah throws her backpack at the overhead light, plunging the basement into darkness. In the chaos, Mei moves purely by feel, guided by her training and her new awareness. She disarms Viper with a technique that feels like it comes from both her mother's teaching and her own instinct. "The shrine room," Master Chen calls out. "Now!" They rush through the hidden door, Sarah clutching her backpack of precious documents. Master Chen seals the entrance behind them with a heavy wooden bar, but they can already hear Viper's warriors trying to break through. The shrine room connects to a narrow tunnel, its walls lined with ancient bricks. The original Chinese workers built these during the city's early days, Master Chen explains as they run. "Your mother mapped them all. She knew we might need an escape route someday." As they descend deeper under the city, the sounds of pursuit echo behind them. Mei realizes they're not just running from Viper and her warriors. They're running toward something. Every step takes them further from her old life of secrets and hiding, toward a destiny her mother glimpsed in her research. "Where does this tunnel lead?" Sarah asks between breaths. "To the beginning," Master Chen answers cryptically. "And if we survive the night, to the future your mother dreamed of, Mei. One where the Phoenix Gate stance serves its true purpose." The tunnel seems endless, its brick walls glistening with moisture from the harbor's proximity. Sarah's phone provides the only light, casting long shadows as they navigate the underground maze. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit echoed distantly, suggesting Viper's team has found the tunnel entrance. "We need to contact Madame Wu," Master Chen says as they run. "She has resources, safe houses." "No need," Sarah interrupts, somehow managing to check her laptop while running. "I've been monitoring local traffic cameras. 3 black SUVs just pulled up outside your shop, but I also caught this." She shows them footage from an hour ago. Marcus being picked up by a similar vehicle, looking defeated. "They'll take him back for reconditioning," Master Chen explains grimly. "The Crimson Hand doesn't tolerate failure." Mei processes this while running. All those fighters in their underground network. They're not just looking for temple techniques, are they? They're testing potential recruits. "Your mother discovered the truth." Master Chen's voice carries years of regret. The Crimson Hand has spent centuries building a shadow army, using fragments of ancient knowledge to create enhanced warriors. But they could never achieve the full potential of the Phoenix Gate stance without understanding its true nature. They reach a junction where 3 tunnels converge. Master Chen chooses the right path without hesitation. "Your mother's markings," he explains, pointing to what looks like old Chinese graffiti. She mapped these tunnels during her research. The symbols contain hidden messages about where each path leads. Sarah squints at the markings. These don't look like standard Chinese characters. Because they're not, Mei realizes, recognizing the style from her mother's journals. They're martial arts forms written as characters. You can only read them if you know the movements they represent. A crash echoes from behind them, followed by voices. Viper's team is getting closer. Master Chen leads them into a side chamber, originally used for storing smuggled goods a century ago. As they catch their breath, he pulls out one of the rescued scrolls. "Your mother wasn't just researching the Phoenix Gate stance," he explains, unrolling the document. "She was tracking the Crimson Hand's history. They didn't start as corrupted as they are now. Originally, they were temple guardians who believed the techniques should be used more actively. The scroll shows a family tree of martial arts lineages with certain branches marked in red. Over generations, they twisted the temple's teaching, focusing only on power while ignoring wisdom. But they could never fully master the highest techniques without understanding their true purpose." Mei studies the scroll, noting how certain lines connect to modern events. These recent names, they're all successful fighters, business leaders, military figures. "The Crimson Hand's modern network," Master Chen confirms. "They place their trained warriors in positions of influence worldwide. Marcus was just a small part of their recruitment system. They use underground fights to identify talented young martial artists, then offer them power through ancient techniques." Sarah's laptop chirps softly. Guys? Those SUVs are moving. They're searching in a pattern, checking all possible tunnel exits. They'll have the harbor covered soon." Mei closes her eyes, recalling the sensation she felt during the fight upstairs. The evolved stance had shown her more than just how to move. It had revealed patterns, connections. Mom's last journal entry. She wasn't just writing about martial arts techniques, was she? Master Chen's expression softens with pride. She discovered that the Phoenix Gate stance was originally developed not for fighting, but for understanding. The ability to move between moments was a side effect of achieving a higher state of consciousness. More crashes echo through the tunnels, closer now. Mei can hear Viper's voice giving orders, her words indistinct but tone cold. "Your mother believed the stance could be used to heal, to teach, to bridge understanding between people," Master Chen continues urgently. "That's why they feared her discoveries. An army of enlightened warriors would be useless to them. You can't control someone who truly understands themselves." Mei stands, moving into the evolved stance her mother created. But this time, instead of preparing to fight, she focuses on understanding. The tunnel's acoustics change, revealing patterns in the echoing sounds of their pursuers. "They're hurting us," she realizes. "There are more teams entering from the harbor side. They're pushing us toward..." Her eyes widen. "The old temple." "What temple?" Sarah asks. "The first Chinese temple built in Vancouver. Master Chen explains. Now abandoned, hidden beneath modern buildings. Your mother found evidence that the original builders were connected to our temple in China. She believed they left something there, something that could prove the true purpose of our arts. And the Crimson Hand knows about it, Mei concludes. That's why they're forcing us in that direction. They want us to lead them to whatever's hidden there. A new sound reaches them, the rhythmic thud of boots on brick coming from multiple directions. They're running out of time. We have two choices, Master Chen says gravely. Try to escape to the surface where their resources and influence make us vulnerable. Or head for the temple, Mei finishes, and face whatever's waiting there. She looks at the scroll at her mother's hidden messages in the tunnel walls. Mom spent years piecing this mystery together. I won't let her work die here. Sarah checks her laptop one last time. All harbor exits are now covered. The temple might be our only option. Then we do this smart, Mei says, her voice carrying new authority. Mom's techniques weren't about fighting force with force. It's time we showed the Crimson Hand what true temple arts can do. The deeper they venture into the tunnel network, the older the construction becomes. Modern brick gives way to 19th century stonework, and finally to walls that look much older than Vancouver itself. Master Chen traces his fingers along strange symbols carved into the rock, similar to those in the temple scrolls but with subtle differences. The original temple builders weren't just constructing a place of worship, he explains as they move carefully through the darkness. They were creating a sanctuary for knowledge. Your mother believed they were connected to our temple in China, part of a network that stretched across Asia. Sarah's laptop screen illuminates a junction ahead. Multiple heat signatures approaching from the north tunnel, she whispers. They're coordinating through some kind of advanced communication system. Mei closes her eyes, applying her mother's evolved stance principles to enhance her senses. The vibrations through the stone floor tell her more than any heat sensor could. 3 teams, moving in parallel tunnels. They're trying to box us in, force us toward. She doesn't finish because they all see it. An ancient wooden door set into the rock wall, carved with the same phoenix emblem that was on her mother's pendant. The craftsmanship is exquisite, clearly created by master artisans, but something about it feels wrong to Mei's enhanced perception. It's too obvious, she says. The Crimson Hand would have found this years ago. Master Chen nods approvingly. Your mother said the same thing. The obvious path is rarely the correct one in temple teachings. He moves to the wall opposite the door, running his hands over the seemingly solid rock. Help me search. The real entrance will be hidden in plain sight. As they search, Sarah monitors the approaching teams through her laptop. They're slowing down, moving more cautiously. Whatever they expect to find here, they're being careful about it. Mei's fingers find a slight depression in the rock, not carved but worn smooth by countless hands over centuries. Applying pressure in the pattern of a temple form causes a section of wall to shift silently, revealing a narrow passage. The temple's first lesson, Master Chen says proudly. True strength flows like water, finding the path of least resistance. They slip through just as flashlight beams appear in the main tunnel. Through the crack, they see Viper approach the carved door with several teams of armed warriors. She runs her hands over the phoenix emblem with obvious greed. Prepare the charges, she orders. If we can't unlock it, we'll break it open. Inside the hidden passage, the air feels different, charged with something that makes Mei's skin tingle. The walls are lined with more symbols, but these seem to shift and change in the dim light from Sarah's laptop. They're forms, Mei realizes, studying the moving patterns. The whole passage is teaching the Phoenix Gate stance, showing how it should flow. She can feel the knowledge seeping into her understanding, filling gaps in her technique that she never knew existed. Your mother discovered this place, Master Chen reveals as they progress deeper. But she never made it to the inner chamber. The night she... He pauses, composing himself. She was coming here when they found her. A deep boom echoes through the tunnels. Viper's team blasting through the wooden door. Sarah checks her laptop. They'll figure out it's a decoy soon. We need to hurry. The passage opens into a circular chamber that takes their breath away. The walls are covered in luminescent crystals that pulse with soft light, illuminating a space that seems to defy physics. The floor is decorated with an intricate mandala pattern, and at the center stands a simple pedestal. The heart of the first temple, Master Chen whispers reverently. Your mother believed this chamber was designed to amplify the effects of the Phoenix Gate stance, allowing practitioners to reach states of consciousness that modern science can't explain. Mei approaches the pedestal carefully. On its surface is a depression that matches the shape of her mother's pendant, the one Marcus took. Above it, carved into the stone, is a message in the same moving symbols as the passage. The gate opens not with a key but with understanding, Master Chen translates. Your mother wrote about this. The pendant isn't needed. It was just a marker, pointing to this place. The real key is in mastering the stance itself. More explosions echo from behind them. Closer now. Viper's team is systematically searching the walls, probably using ground-penetrating radar or other modern technology to find their hidden path. They'll be here soon, Sarah warns, her laptop showing multiple teams converging on their location. Whatever we're going to do. Mei steps onto the mandala pattern, feeling energy surge through her body. The crystals pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat as she begins moving through her mother's evolved version of the Phoenix Gate stance. Each position feels different here, as if the chamber itself is responding to her movements. The stance isn't about fighting, she says, understanding flooding through her. This chamber, the temple, all of it, it was created to show us something beyond combat, something the Crimson Hand could never understand because they were too focused on power. The mandala pattern begins to glow beneath her feet as she continues the form. Master Chen watches with tears in his eyes, seeing his daughter's legacy living on through Mei. But before she can complete the sequence, the hidden door bursts open and Viper steps through with her warriors, weapons raised. How convenient, Viper smirks. You've done all the work of finding the inner chamber for us. Now step away from the mandala, or... The threat dies in her throat as she sees what's happening to Mei. The chamber's crystals are pulsing faster now, their light forming patterns in the air that mirror the moving symbols on the walls. The Phoenix Gate stance is about to reveal its true purpose, and not even the Crimson Hand can stop what's coming. The chamber pulses with ancient power as Mei continues the evolved Phoenix Gate stance, each movement creating ripples of light in the air around her. Viper's warriors spread out around the mandala, weapons trained on Mei, but their usual confidence seems shaken by the supernatural display before them. Incredible, Viper breathes, her cold facade cracking slightly. The legends were true. The chamber amplifies the stance's effects. She steps forward, her eyes reflecting the dancing lights. All these years we thought the Phoenix Gate was just a superior fighting technique. But this is something else entirely. Master Chen moves to protect Mei, but she speaks without breaking her stance. Don't interfere. I understand now. This is what Mom was trying to tell us. The symbols on the walls are moving faster now, their patterns synchronizing with Mei's movements. Each position of the stance seems to unlock something in the chamber's design, making the crystals pulse brighter. Sarah's laptop screen flickers and dies, overwhelmed by the energy filling the space. The temple arts were never about combat, Mei continues, her voice carrying a new resonance. Fighting was just a way to teach the principles. The real goal was to understand the connection between mind, body, and... She executes a complex transition that makes the mandala beneath her feet flare with light. Time itself. Viper signals her warriors to hold their positions. Then the Crimson Hand's goal was too small. Forget creating superior warriors. With this power, we could reshape reality itself. That's exactly why you'll never master it, Master Chen says sadly. You see only the potential for power, not understanding. Mei reaches the final sequence of the evolved stance, the one her mother discovered. The chamber responds dramatically. The moving symbols leave the walls, swirling through the air like living calligraphy. Each character shows a different aspect of the technique, but now Mei can read them all simultaneously, understanding flowing into her mind like water. Mom didn't just improve the stance, she realizes. She rediscovered its original purpose. The ancient masters weren't trying to move faster than their opponents. They were learning to perceive time differently, to see how all moments connect. Viper raises her hand, signaling her warriors to take aim. How philosophical, but let's be practical, step away from the mandala or… She's cut off by a new arrival. Marcus staggers through the broken door, looking beaten but determined. Don't let her complete the stance. If she does, but it's too late. Mei flows through the final positions, moving in perfect harmony with the chamber's energy. The mandala erupts with brilliant light, and suddenly everyone in the room experiences something extraordinary. Time seems to fold in on itself, showing them glimpses of interconnected moments. They see the temple's construction centuries ago, master craftsmen encoding their knowledge into its very walls. They see generations of practitioners discovering pieces of the truth. They see Mei's mother making her breakthrough, understanding how all the pieces fit together. And they see possible futures branching out before them, some dark with the Crimson Hand's influence, others bright with the potential for human growth and understanding. The visions affect everyone differently. Some of Viper's warriors lower their weapons, overwhelmed by the revelation. Others seem to age years in moments as the weight of their choices becomes clear. Marcus falls to his knees, finally understanding how the Crimson Hand manipulated his anger and ambition. But Viper herself refuses to accept it. She draws her gun, aiming at Mei. Enough philosophy. Power is power, no matter its source. She pulls the trigger, but Mei is no longer bound by normal time. The stance lets her perceive the bullet's trajectory as clearly as a path drawn in the air. She doesn't need to move faster than the bullet. She simply needs to understand its journey and step aside at the perfect moment. The bullet passes harmlessly through the space where she stood, but its impact on the crystal wall creates an unexpected reaction. Cracks spread through the ancient stone, releasing waves of stored energy. The chamber's power, contained for centuries, begins to destabilize. Mom knew this would happen, Mei realizes, maintaining her stance despite the chaos. The chamber wasn't meant to last forever. It was just meant to preserve the knowledge until someone could understand it properly. Master Chen quickly grasps the situation. The temple is collapsing, everyone out now. Even Viper can see the danger. She backs toward the exit, signaling her remaining loyal warriors to retreat. Marcus helps some of the shocked warriors evacuate, perhaps beginning his own path to redemption. But Mei remains in the stance, surrounded by swirling symbols and cascading energy. I have to complete it, she insists. Mom's last journal entry. She saw this coming. The chamber's power needs to be released properly, or it could take half the city with it. Sarah, who has been documenting everything on her phone since her laptop died, makes a decision. Tell me what you need. The pendant, Mei says. The one Marcus took. It's not just a key. It's a focus point. As the chamber shudders around them, Master Chen spots the pendant where Marcus dropped it during the chaos. But reaching it means crossing the mandala's pulsing energy field. The question is, can they stabilize the chamber's power before the whole structure collapses, burying centuries of knowledge beneath modern Vancouver? The chamber groans under the strain of unleashed energies. Ancient stones shifting as centuries of contained power seek release. Master Chen moves with impossible grace across the destabilizing mandala, snatching up the phoenix pendant moments before that section of floor cracks apart. The pendant isn't just decorative, he calls out, studying the intricate patterns on its surface. Your mother designed it as a focus point, a way to channel and control the chamber's energy. Sarah records everything on her phone while bracing herself against the shaking walls. The symbols on the pendant match the ones in the chamber, but they're arranged differently. Mei maintains her stance at the center of the mandala, feeling the flow of power through the ancient site. Through her enhanced perception, she can see how every piece fits together. The chamber, the pendant, her mother's evolved stance, all creating a pattern that extends far beyond this hidden room. Mom didn't just improve the Phoenix Gate stance, she realizes. She found a way to share its true power. Not through combat, but through understanding. She looks at her grandfather. The pendant. Quick, before the chamber collapses. Master Chen throws the pendant with perfect accuracy. As Mei catches it, something extraordinary happens. The pendant's phoenix design begins to glow, responding to her evolved stance. The chamber's wild energies start flowing into the small artifact, drawn by the patterns encoded in its surface. "Your mother's final gift," Master Chen says softly. She knew the chamber couldn't last forever in today's world, so she created a way to preserve its essence, waiting for someone who could truly understand its purpose. But the process isn't complete. The chamber's power is too great for the pendant alone to contain. That's when they hear footsteps in the passageway. Marcus returns, supporting a weakened Madame Wu. "The old tunnels are collapsing," he warns. But Madame Wu insisted on coming back. She says she knows what needs to be done. The elderly woman stumbles forward, pulling something from her robes. Another pendant, identical to Mei's mother's. "Your mother wasn't working alone," she explains through labored breath. "There were others who understood the temple's true purpose, who helped her prepare for this moment." Viper's voice cuts through the chaos as she too returns to the chamber. "You fool. All this power and you'd simply let it fade away." She raises her gun again, but Marcus moves faster. Years of combat training expressed in one perfect disarming technique. "I understand now," he says, holding Viper back. "The Crimson Hand taught us to take power, but true strength comes from understanding it." Madame Wu hobbles to the opposite side of the mandala from Mei, her pendant glowing in sync with the first. "The chamber's power was never meant to be contained," she explains. "It was meant to be shared, spread throughout the world in a form that couldn't be weaponized. The pendants are receivers," Mei understands, maintaining her stance as energy flows between the two artifacts. "But they need the evolved stance to direct the flow." "Yes," Madame Wu confirms, her frail body somehow finding the strength to mirror Mei's stance. "Your mother created a network of pendants, given to trusted practitioners around the world. When the chamber's power is released properly, it will flow to all of them, preserving the knowledge in a way the Crimson Hand can never corrupt." The chamber's crystals pulse brighter as the two practitioners move in harmony, their pendants drawing in the ancient energy. Sarah's phone captures the extraordinary sight as symbols of power and wisdom flow like light between the artifacts. Even Viper falls silent, witnessing something beyond her understanding of martial arts. Master Chen recognizes sequences of movement that span centuries of temple knowledge, preserved not in combat forms, but in pure understanding. "The temple's greatest technique," he says proudly, "was learning how to let go of the need for techniques." The chamber's power flows into the pendant network, spreading across the world to others who carry Mei's mother's legacy. As the energy stabilizes, the violent shaking subsides. The crystals dim, having served their purpose after centuries of waiting. Viper slumps in Marcus's grip, her ambitions literally crumbling with the chamber. "All that power," she whispers. "Not lost," Mei corrects her, completing the final movement. "Transformed. The knowledge isn't gone. It's now preserved in a way that requires understanding to access. No amount of force or ambition can unlock it." The chamber grows quiet as the last energies dissipate. But something has fundamentally changed. Those present can feel it. A subtle shift in perception, a deeper awareness of the connections between all things. The Phoenix Gate stance's true gift wasn't supernatural power, but a heightened way of experiencing reality itself. Sarah checks her phone, amazed that it still works after everything it recorded. "The world needs to know the truth about the temple arts," she says, "not as a source of power, but as a path to understanding." As they make their way out through the stabilizing tunnels, Mei feels her mother's pendant pulse softly against her chest. The chamber's physical form may be lost, but its wisdom lives on, preserved in a network of understanding that spans the globe. The question now is, how will this ancient knowledge transform a modern world? 1 month after the events at the Hidden Temple, Vancouver's morning mist rolls across the harbor as usual. But for Mei, everything has changed. The old warehouse where she used to train alone now hosts small groups of students, not learning fighting techniques, but studying the principles of awareness and understanding that form the true core of the temple arts. Master Chen watches from the doorway as Mei guides her students through basic movements. Among them is Marcus, his former aggression replaced by genuine dedication to learning. The Phoenix Gate stance's revelation affected everyone differently, but for him it offered a path to redemption. Remember, Mei instructs, moving through a sequence that seems deceptively simple. These forms aren't about combat. They're tools for understanding yourself and your connection to the world around you. Her mother's pendant glows softly as she demonstrates, resonating with similar pendants worn by practitioners worldwide. Sarah sits at her usual spot with her laptop, but she's no longer just coding. The footage she captured in the chamber, combined with her technical skills, has helped her create an interactive archive of temple knowledge. Working with Madame Wu's international network of practitioners, they're preserving the arts in a form that requires genuine understanding to access. The database is growing, Sarah reports as Mei joins her after class. We're getting messages from pendant holders all over the world. Some have been hiding in plain sight for years, waiting for this moment. Your mom's network was bigger than anyone knew. The herb shop has been rebuilt, still serving as a community fixture, but now also operating as a subtle meeting point for those seeking deeper knowledge. The basement shrine room, though empty of its original scrolls, has become a meditation space where students can practice the evolved stance and connect with the pendant network's shared wisdom. Viper and most of her warriors are in custody, their international criminal network exposed by Sarah's meticulous documentation. But the real victory wasn't their arrest. It was the dismantling of the Crimson Hand's philosophy of power and control. Without access to the temple's true knowledge, their remaining cells worldwide are slowly dissolving. Master Chen receives regular updates from Madame Wu about new practitioners discovering their pendant's potential. Your mother's vision is spreading, he tells Mei proudly. The knowledge flows like water, finding those ready to understand, rather than those who seek to control. One afternoon, while Mei is demonstrating an advanced awareness exercise, a young girl visits the warehouse with her parents. She can't be more than 12, but her eyes show unusual focus as she watches the practice. "The pendant you wear," she says to Mei afterward. "It's like the one in my grandmother's box. It started glowing a month ago, but nobody knew why." Mei shares a knowing look with Master Chen. This is happening more often. Descendants of the original pendant holders discovering their inherited connections to the temple arts. Each one represents another thread in the growing web of understanding that Mei's mother envisioned. The true power of the Phoenix Gate stance wasn't in the technique itself, Mei explains to her advanced students later that day. It was in showing us how everything connects, past and present, action and awareness, student and teacher. She demonstrates a move that seems to flow like water while staying perfectly still. When you understand these connections deeply enough, moving between moments isn't about speed or power. It's about being in harmony with time itself. Sarah's phone buzzes with news from their global network. Similar schools are opening worldwide, each led by a pendant holder, each teaching the arts as they were meant to be taught. The Crimson Hand's dream of a warrior elite has been replaced by something far more powerful. A growing community of practitioners focused on understanding rather than dominance. In the evening, Mei visits her mother's grave, the pendant warm against her skin. "You saw so far ahead," she says softly. "You knew the old ways couldn't survive in their original form, so you found a way to transform them into something that could grow and adapt." She performs the evolved stance, feeling the connection to practitioners around the world doing the same. The sun sets over Vancouver Harbor as Mei returns to the warehouse for evening practice. Students of all ages are arriving, drawn by something they may not fully understand yet. Among them is David, the freshman whose bullying incident started everything. He's brought friends who were also once victims of the fighting rings, now seeking a different kind of strength. Master Chen greets them at the door, his eyes twinkling with wisdom and hope. "Remember," he tells Mei as they prepare for class, "your mother believed that true power lies not in keeping knowledge hidden, but in sharing it with those ready to understand." The warehouse fills with the soft light of multiple pendants as practice begins. The ancient knowledge of the Phoenix Gate Temple lives on, not in hidden chambers or secret techniques, but in the growing network of understanding that spans the globe. The true art, as Mei's mother discovered, was never about fighting at all. It was about connecting, growing, and seeing the world through enlightened eyes. Through the warehouse windows, the first stars become visible in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, at this very moment, another pendant is beginning to glow, calling another seeker to the path of true understanding. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.